Good morning, everybody. So yesterday I had a good question about portion sizes, and because that's a topic that doesn't require much prep, we can knock it out this morning. So when it comes to, well, anytime we talk portion sizes, I like to give a little spiel on ways to kind of look at your food. So just to give you an idea of, like, if you were to come into my office, what are all the different ways that I'm looking at your food? And I do want to apologize for the bags under my eyes because little Miss Roxy didn't sleep well last night, so that means I didn't sleep well last night. And there's the pretty little princess over there who is way more pep than she should for not sleeping and keeping me awake all night. Roxy. Good girl. All right. So first, let's go over the things that I look at when I'm looking at people's food. So first is always calories, especially if we're talking weight loss. There's been a lot of talk on the internet about how the calorie theory has been dispelled. Yeah, not really. If you look at any study on weight loss and what diets lead to weight loss, every single one of those diets resulted in some kind of calorie deficit. So let's take paleo, for example. When people go on a paleo diet, now depending on how they do it, because I've had people gain weight on paleo as well, depending on how they do paleo, oftentimes what happens, and this is true for like the gluten-free community too, people who follow gluten-free for weight loss, you end up avoiding a lot of grains. And grains are a very convenient food in our country. And a lot of grain-based like desserts and snacks exist. So by default, you end up choosing healthier foods anyways, because you're now not choosing most packaged foods. You end up choosing a lot of fresh foods because you can't eat the grains according to these food rules that you're following. So that oftentimes leaves, hey, how's it going? Yeah, up really early today. So calories still count, and that's the very first thing we do in office if you're trying to lose weight and you're struggling. We count calories first. Now, are there instances where people end up eating more calories to lose weight? Yeah, but we always make sure that you're eating where you should be first, and if that's not working, then we play around a little bit. And my second stop after calories is always macros. So the macro diet's very popular. What I see a lot of people do is they count their macros, but they don't really pay attention to the calories. They're not really paying attention to the micronutrients, and they're not paying attention to food quality. So that's where some people can get really messed up, is not paying attention to these things. Okay, so food groups is another one. This is another way we can kind of just assess your diet, make sure you're getting your fruits and vegetables. That's a big one. That's one where people are often short. And then timing is one. This is one that I find especially helpful for athletes who are trying to manage their weight. So we'll do some play around with macros and timing and how we pair different foods and different macro levels across a day around your workouts. Okay, and then portion size. This is what the question was about today. Food pairing is another one. So are we eating fruit by itself, or are we eating fruit with like cheese? Okay, would be an example. And then frequency. What I mean by frequency is, so a lot of times I get people who will say things like, I don't really eat a lot of bad things, but then if we look at how frequently they go out to eat, it's actually very frequent, and so it actually ends up being something very significant, a significant impact on their diet. So frequency is another one to look at. But let's look at portion size real quick. So the first thing I'll show you is when it comes to weight management, I often ask people to switch from a dinner plate to a salad plate. So I'll show you the difference here. So this is a dinner plate, and this is a salad plate, okay? So does this mean that's all you get? No. A lot of times, males especially will look at me and think I'm crazy when I tell them to eat off a salad plate. So no, this doesn't mean that's all you get. It's just that we have a habit of filling up our plate, even piling things on top of our plate. And then we're also members of the Clean Plate Club. So if that's you, then starting with the salad plate and making yourself pause at the bottom of that plate when it's empty just gives you a chance to check in with yourself instead of just going for it until your plate's empty. Like I call it almost like eating amnesia. Like you don't really notice how much you're eating because you just power through it. So this allows you to power through it, but then it forces you to pause. So then once your plate is empty, you can decide, am I still hungry? And what am I still hungry for? Maybe you don't need a whole plate. Maybe you just want an extra serving of vegetables or starch or protein versus eating a whole nother helping of those things. Okay, so then the next thing I'm going to show you is what we call the athlete plates. Okay, So I'll show you the Easy Training Weight Management Day one first. I use these a lot in office. Okay, so here's the Easy Training Weight Management plate. These solid lines here, this is what we teach the general public for healthy eating. The key being half your plate is raw vegetables or fruit, a quarter of your plate is your lean proteins, and then a quarter of your plate is your starches. So your potatoes and corn go with your starches, not your vegetables, okay? For weight management, I take away some of the starches and increase some of the protein. All right, so that's one way to set up your plate. I also find this particularly helpful for people who eat on the go frequently or have to eat out frequently, trying to match their plate to look like this. For an athlete though, we also, whoops, this is supposed to be the moderate training day. Let me see. Let's go back to Google. Let's pull this one up. Okay, so your moderate training day, the only thing that's different is we increase the starches and decrease the vegetables. So the more active you are, the more carbs you need. So notice the protein did not change. A lot of times people go overboard on protein. And I usually increase protein for my athletes, but it doesn't end up being as much as people think. Okay, and then here's the hard training day where half your plate is grains. People tend to really like this plate. And then only a quarter of it is vegetables. And the reason being you really need those carbs on something like race day or long run day, that kind of thing. And then the next thing I'm going to show you is the MyPlate website. Okay, so choosemyplate.gov. So this is where you can find information about portion sizes for food groups. So we're going to start with fruit. And how much fruit you should be eating daily is going to depend on your age, gender, and level of physical activity. So fruits are quite starchy, so that's one reason why the more active you are, the more fruit you can have. So here's the chart. I don't think you can really see it. There we go. So you can find this online so that you can check and see what it is that you should be eating. But generally speaking, about 2 cups for adults per day. So what counts as a cup? So 1 cup of fruit or 100% fruit juice. I tend to recommend the fruit over the juice on that one, or half a cup of dried fruit. All count towards 1 cup of fruit in this category. Okay, next up, let's do vegetables. So again, here's your vegetable table about how much you should be eating. For adults, 2 to 3 cups is what we're looking for. Okay, so what counts as a cup? So 1 cup raw vegetables, raw or cooked vegetables, or vegetable juice. Again, I would steer you towards the actual vegetables over the juice for the vast majority of the time. Or 2 cups of raw leafy greens can be considered as 1 cup. Okay. And next up, then do grains. Okay, so here's your grain table. So how much should you be eating? Minimum is a 3 or 4 ounce equivalent, depending on whether you're male or female. And that changes with age for males. Notice that. Okay, so daily recommendation is anywhere from 6 to 8 ounces, depending on whether you're male, female, and your age. Minimum 3 ounces. So 1 slice of bread, 1 cup of cereal, or half a cup of cooked rice, cooked pasta, or cooked cereal is considered a 1 ounce equivalent. All right. And then let's do protein next, then we'll do dairy and oils. So again, here's your table. For adults, 5 to 6.5 ounces, depending on age and gender. So what counts towards, this is the one that gets most people confused. So we count it in ounces, and we tend to eat, well, about my wallet size is about 3 ounces, okay, or like a deck of cards, it's about 3 ounces of meat, okay, or a 4th cup of cooked beans counts as 1 ounce, 1 egg is 1 ounce, 1 tablespoon of peanut butter, half an ounce of nuts or seeds, all these can be considered 1 ounce. Okay, so across the day, you're counting up those items there, and it should be between 5 and 6.5 ounces, depending on your recommendations. Okay, now dairy. Here's your table. So mostly the dairy recommendation is for children. But adults, I mean, you don't have to get dairy, but it is a significant source of calcium and vitamin D in our diets. You can get those things elsewhere. Vitamin D is a little bit harder, but generally speaking, 3 cups is the recommendation. So that could be from 1 cup of milk, yogurt, or soy milk, 1.5 ounces of cheese, or 2 ounces of processed cheese. All are considered 1 cup. I would rather you get that from natural cheese than processed cheese. And oils. All right, so your daily allowance, 5 to 7 teaspoons, depending on gender and age. So teaspoons is pretty self-explanatory, although this can be a little difficult to measure if it's in your food versus adding it to your food. So avocado is in this category, peanut butter can be in this category, nuts and seeds are also in this category. So notice that things like nuts and seeds count for 2 categories here. Okay, mayonnaise is here, Italian dressing. So there you go. So there's your stuff on portion sizes. Pretty quick little video this morning, and send me any questions you might have. Thanks for watching.